So, good morning, everyone, and thank you for participating in this first event of the dissemination project of our department called Science on Stellar on Earth, about inclusive dissemination devoted to people with disabilities. And this project is financed by the University of Padova, but is also in, with collaboration of INFN and also some association related to blind person and deaf person, in particular Unione Italiana Ciechi, Fondazione Holman e Ente Nazionale Sordi. Today we have this very interesting seminar by ERIKA LABBÉ. ERIKA is working in the University of Cile, Diego Portales, and she is a coordinator of the Inclusive Dissemination department. And today she will speak about the advantages of making science accessible, and we'll discuss about her experience in these kind of projects. I would remember you that next Monday and Tuesday there will be workshops. You can find all the information in our Indico page. And those workshops will be devoted to teach and those techniques to the person involved in the project and who will come for those experiences. So thank you, ERIKA.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for coming. I'm really happy to be here. I'm really excited about sharing this because I think inclusion in outreach is something very interesting to do. For me, I have found that working on this, I have found that has improved a lot my outreach work. So I will tell you a little about this now. If you have questions, I think you can stop me as you prefer, or maybe at the end. And yeah, I will start then. So, how it started? First of all, who am I? I have a master's degree in physics. I've been working in astronomy. But after I finished my master, I never did research because I felt in love with explaining astronomy to other people. And that's why I've been working on communicating science since 2006. And I have to say that I like the new challenges. It makes me very enthusiastic to try myself in something new. So this is very challenging what I'm going to tell you. So you must know what is the importance of science communication. For me, just for a better world. If you can share your love for science, your love for this kind of thinking, you know, and people can learn that, can appreciate too, they will be more critical about the information they get. I don't know, I think even the big problems of our work, like pollution, like everything else, could be better treatment, you know, if people actually knows about that and think about critically. So science is an important issue for everyone, not for only physics or only physicists or scientists. And because of that, I feel my work is very important, not only for all the people that we tell about science, but also for scientists, because if people love science, they will give money to scientists, which is something, you know, very important. And when I came to this idea of doing inclusion, you know, it was a challenge. It was such an important challenge that I couldn't actually take it from a couple of weeks. With someone told me, why don't you give a talk actually he told me, why don't you give a talk for old people, you know, like their age, or blind people? And I couldn't think about what to do with blind people. I was like in shock for 2 weeks, like thinking, what, how? astronomy, how? And then he told me again, and then I start to think about it, and I choose like the simplest way that I saw at the moment, that to transform whatever I want to share in the picture into something that you can touch. So I choose a specific subject, which is very tactileized, star formation. You know, we have nebulas, we have protoplanetary disks, we have planets and stars. So everything that, all that, you can make it in something that you can touch. And that's why I choose that subject. I ally with a scientist, with an astronomer who was expert in this subject, and she was very good making things with their hands, you know, making some manualities. So that's how we started creating this first experience at the 2016. And there's a picture of that experience, you know. It's a very simple model, very cheap one, actually. And people were touching it in this core, the planets. And that's actually was an idea that one of that person gave me, one of that blind person that I showed this model before. She told me, okay, you have this model in a core. You don't have to make people sit and touch it one planet by one planet. You have people, you have to make people walk on this model to sense the distances, to sense another kind of thing. And that was a blind person who told me that. So it was a very interesting experience. I learned a lot. People were very excited, the blind people, and also the people who was just watching this activity. And that's why we actually repeat this same talk like 16 times in that year for blind people or for people who their eyes covered. So I started to notice how different was the experience for people, people watching a PowerPoint, you know, and you may know planet sizes and distance are not easy to show in an image. Compare with these touchable models that they can actually sense through their hands. They can actually comprehend in a very deep way, different than an image. So I started to perceive the advantage of doing this kind of activity instead of the traditional one. So, because of that, I take the decision in that time to share this, not only try to do it by myself, but start to try to invite more people to do this. Because in Chile, at the university level at least, there weren't things like that happening yet. You know, I didn't know about any inclusive project. Actually, there were a couple of them, but still developing. So one of the people contacted me, and we start to collaborate in another project, and that was very useful because we start to grow. And I went to, at that time, we didn't have a student in our university, only researchers. So I went to another universities to look for students, so I can offer them to train them in these things that I was just learning. You know, and that was very productive because from there, some projects were born. A very interesting project, a very creative project. And then more people were interested, and we make this we start to collect people in this group, Astronomy Inclusiva, as you can see. You can see our beautiful logo. It's a hand with very many colors, you know, touching a ball that could be a planet, a star, whatever. And then you have a ring, which is very astronomical, but also it's like union. The colors are diversity, and then the name. So the logo itself was made by one of the members of this group that has more than 100 members. He's a designer, so he knew what he was doing. And in this group, there are people from many institutions. As you can see there, we have, telescopes like ALMA, like Gaia Magellan. There were an artist there. Telescopio is one of the projects that was born because one of these talks. So I'm very proud of them. museums, planetarium, other projects, other universities. Many people coming from many places. We were in this group like 3 years later because we have this 3 solar eclipse in Santiago, in Chile, one after another every year. So because of that, we have to work a lot, as you can imagine. And we did this collaborative works trying to get these light sound devices. I don't know if you have heard about them. This was developed by Wanda Diaz Merced, and which is a blind astronomer from Puerto Rico. And other people in Harvard University, they developed this device that take the light of the sun and make it a sound. So if the sun is completely open, the sound is very high pitch. And then when the sun is starting to cover, the pitch goes down, 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 until it doesn't sound anymore. So it's very clear. The sound makes let you know how the eclipse is going. And we have those as a donation. I got them, 10 of them, and I give them to all those people in different parts of Chile, so we have this experience. And in the next year, one of my colleagues, she had a project, and she made 100 of them. So we have more of them. So it was great. I mean, that device is great. So that event reunites us, and we start this group, this very big group. But not only astronomers or science communicators, also teachers, anthropologists, people, blind people, deaf people. There were a lot of people into this group because they were somehow interested in make science more accessible. And because of the goal of this group, from the start we agree not to compete with each other, because competition can be very bad for this kind of idea, Actually, there I met a doctor, oculist, an oculist, I don't know. And he told me that the first thing that you have to leave whenever you start this kind of work is your ego. So it was very impressive from a doctor, from medicine, but it was really clear. So we work on that, we talk about that, we try to be always collaborating and never competing. I think it's very healthy. So, what is inclusive astronomy? I will say a work in progress, not because I'm actually planning to finish in some time. I think it's always a work in progress, because technology is changing, because the way the people think about disability is also changing. So you have to be in touch every time, all the time, with your public, with the ideas, with what's happening around. And so you can build something that actually works. So what are the typical barriers that you can face in this kind of situation? For astronomy, at least, and I think for all sciences, mainly visual representations are a barrier for someone who can see, a blind person, a low vision person, to only depend on graphs and plots and figures. It can be very hard. For the deaf person who speaks in sign language, there is a lot of technical terms that doesn't have a sign, And it's not only a matter of make a sign for them. They have to come up with their own sign. So it's a work you have to do with them, It's not easy, because sign language is another language, and it has to grow as a typical language. It's not something that someone will impose to you, but people itself will create as the way they prefer. So that's why, in that sense, it's not easy to overcome this. You have to work with them. Well, for someone who cannot move freely, physical barriers to access labs and science buildings is an issue, a very important one. So that's something that also can prevent someone very interested and curious and, prepare for doing science. That person won't be able to reach the places that you have to be to the science. All of us know that it's very important to share with your colleagues, to be in the same place, to have lunch with them. It's part of the science production itself. So, yeah, that's a very important thing. And high productivity standards in science, well, that's something very difficult for all of us, not only for people with disabilities, but people with disabilities usually need more time to whatever, to read a paper, to write a paper, to, and that kind of things also makes a barrier for them. And well, this is the last but the more important one, prejudice. Whatever we think about people with disability before know them is something that can stop them many times. Actually, usually I hear from people with disability, this is the main problem for them. Not this, but this. What people think of them can do or cannot do. So, when we talk about accessibility, it's a complex thing because you cannot just think about accessibility in one level. Not only for kids, not only for people in high school or the first year of university, not only for, for scientists, for PhD, for everyone. And that's why it's a work in progress too, because it won't be short. It will take time, but it's important to do it. So what does it mean for me to try to address this to all levels, outreach, education, and research? Well, first of all, as I told you a little bit before, it's a lot of fun because it's challenging. You need to be very creative to try to address this thing, and I like be creative, You have to learn about other ways to perceiving the world, which is very interesting, if you ask me. If you try to imagine yourself not being able to see, but able to hear and to touch and to see the world in another way, I think that's very interesting, I have to say. Or if you think about someone who communicates on science, but not only communicate, but also think on science or dream on science, I think it's crazy. And science, okay, they don't translate every word, into a sign, but signs are very like a play, a theater play. Some of them are very easier to understand, some other not, but somehow you have a lot of possibilities of expressing yourself by signs. So it's another language, and it's a very interesting one. You have to create new ways to communicate based on that, trying to put together whatever you know, whatever you want to tell them, and the way they communicate, you have to put those two together, which is very challenging and interesting. And then you had this kind of reactions. You can see all these people. Most of them are actually blind. And here, for example, you can see her touching this ALMA antenna model. And she's very happy about that, She's really enjoying it. Actually, people told me that they find the antenna beautiful. And then you think, okay, you're touching something and you find it beautiful. That was, okay. She's a student, blind student also. She was very interested in this protoplanetary disk. You can almost not see, but it's very easy to understand. She's also interested in this crater, I think it was a Mars crater for the asteroid day. And here you see people with their eyes covered, having their experience also with these models. And they are very happy about that. Actually, that occasion was with, how how can I say, a group of people in charge of outreach around Chile. And they were very happy about them. They gave me a lot of very useful feedback. They told me that I shouldn't call this an activity, but an experience. Okay, thank you. And they love it. So yeah, it was very good, that experience. And the last picture, you can see Wanda Diaz Merced, the blind astronomer that I told you before. She was visiting Chile a couple of times with us. And in that picture, she's in a school for blind kids. And then when having a first experience with her, about learning, I think it was also about the solar system, but with another technique that she had. And they were so excited about that they never forgot about that. After that experience, we have the chance to have an astronomy club with them for 2 years. So I saw them grow, which was very, very beautiful. And they never forget, So it was a very powerful experience for them to be with a blind astronomer. And all of that kind of reactions are very moving. If you are working in outreach, you will know, or if you teach anyone, you will know how happy you feel when the people is understanding, is having fun with it, or they are amazed. You feel good, This is like 10 times better. I don't know, it's really amazing. And yes, you have to work a bit on motivation. We were talking about that with Sabine, that in Chile, talk about astronomy is very easy. We have so many telescopes in the north of Chile that in the news you can see a lot of astronomy, very amazing things happening in Chile, So people is connected with astronomy more than any other science. And, well, astronomy is romantic. You have the stars, you have the beautiful pictures. So it's easy to communicate astronomy. But if you are facing people who are kind of far from that because of the barriers, because they cannot see those beautiful pictures, or they cannot go to a talk because there is no sign language interpreter. So those people is not looking for those. They are not naturally attracted to your subject, so you have to go for them. And for example, visually impaired people are less exposed to these astronomical images or astronomical experience. If you are in the north of Chile, in a very dark place, you can see the stars in a very amazing way. So that's motivating enough to be interested in astronomy. But these people won't. Hearing impaired people are not used to have sign language interpretation on talk, so they don't look for it either. It has been a long work to putting interpreters in most of the talks, so they can actually realize there is a chance for them to understand, and they can. But still, it's not enough. You have to gain their trust in somehow. I will talk more about that in the workshops. But at the end, when you actually get in touch with them, you will find that they are just as curious as anyone, But they are in a different position. For example, I have, in 3 situations, grown-up people asking me, what is astronomy? Which is a very shocking question when you have it in front, like I don't know, it's very, okay. The science that study stars and planets. I don't know, it's a very difficult question to answer. But also there are some people asking me for dark energy. I don't know either how to explain dark energy, but they know about that, So yes, it's a whole world when you start to talk with them. It's different. In Chile, as I told you, astronomy is so popular that it's hard to find someone who doesn't know about it. But then you have these cases because they are really out of they cannot reach this knowledge in the traditional way. So something very good also that I learned doing this is you need to collaborate. You cannot do this by yourself. I have seen people trying to do this by themselves, and nobody knows them. Nobody knows what are they doing because they don't share. You know? So that's not the way. You need to collaborate with people who knows more than you in different subjects, so you can put all together and do something good, actually. And here in this picture, you can see we are 3 scientists here in the top. Those girls are the ones from the Scopio project that I told you that I was so proud about. They took this idea and make a very good project. Here you can see some students with low vision. Some of them from this club that I told you before. And here are their teachers. So we were working on pandemic all together, trying to prove activity that we made with oranges. So people in their home could do this activity. We prepared a video with very good explanations, so they can, even if they are not seeing the video, they can follow the instruction with an orange, with a stick, with a, I don't know, with little stuff, and they can replicate day and night, the year, the, how do you say, winter, summer, spring, and autumn, and also eclipses with the orange. And they can eat the orange later. So it was a very nice thing to do. Actually, they were asking me, when can I eat the orange because of the smell? So we work always with people, with the communities of people with disabilities. That's a very important thing to do because they need to be involved in this kind of creation. We also, of course, work with teachers because they know more, a lot more than you from of education and also about their child, their students. With disability experts, of course, with parents, also with artists, designers, other scientists. There is a lot of work to do, there is a lot of opportunities, and there is a lot of people who will know more than you of those subjects, so you have to work with them. And this is something that we talked a little bit about that some slides ago, about the difficulties that a person with disability can have in comparison with another who doesn't have a disability. And there is a concept, I don't know if you have heard about that, reasonable accommodations, which is here explained by the United Nations. It's the necessary and appropriate modification and adjustment, not imposing a disproportionate or undue burden where needed in a particular case to ensure to persons with disability the enjoyment or exercise on an equal basis with other of all human rights and fundamental freedoms. So, it's not about give them an advantage compared with the rest of the people. It's about give them the necessary things that they need to be at the same level, you know, to enjoy the same way, but also to work the same way, to be productive in the same way, you know? That's the reasonable accommodations. So that's something that you have to have in mind, not only for outreach, but also for our research. And if I have to say like the more important thing that I had to change my mentality, and I invite you to change if you need it, is these 3 things. First of all, a person with disability knows their own limits better than the rest, better than you. And I know I'm a scientist, so I'm very, you know, I'm trying to figure it out, what I have in front very quickly. I try to understand and imagine what to do, so I get to conclusions very quickly. Don't do that. Don't do that with a person with disability because you are not in their shoes, not a slight chance. It's really, I won't say it's only complicated, their lives, but I will say they already have solved many problems in a way that you don't know. So you cannot just say, okay, that blind person cannot use a phone, for example, because you have to see the phone to use it. That's not true. They have this, software that can read everything that is written on the screen, so they can go actually very fast. They go like da 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 da. It's very impressive, and someone is talking to them very quickly. So yeah, if they train themselves, they can use technology. They can go to places by themselves. They can do many things by themselves. So you cannot just assume something because you cannot imagine how to solve it. Probably they already did. A person with disability does not seek pity, but equity. And this is an important one. Even if our first reaction is exactly that one. When you see someone who has no sight, has maybe an accident or I don't know, whatever, you feel pity. And you feel pity maybe because you, without thinking it too much, you are like putting in their place. You think that, okay, if I couldn't see, I will be very sad. So that person must be sad. So I have to be nice with that person. Yeah, probably at some point he or she was sad. Okay? But if that person already overcome this, that person is not sad anymore. That person is looking for something else. That person is looking for equity, the chance to decide by themselves, the chance to choose whatever they want, to try their own limits, to not being, limited by the rest of the people, to not being pity. Actually, pity is a very hard thing to stand when you are not feeling pity by yourself. If you're in a bad situation, of course, you need people to understand you and show their emotions. But if you're not, it's very annoying. You must know. It's very annoying someone pitying you for something that you don't feel pity for yourself. It's like, okay, no. And another thing, but not related with them, but with ourselves, is whenever you want to do something new, to take these challenges, if you are too perfectionist, it can be bad, in the sense that actually you may never reach the perfection level in accessibility. Why? Because everyone is a different world. Not only people with disabilities, which may be very different to someone who can hear or who can see. But everyone is a different world, so a low vision can be completely different to another low vision. The preference of the people are different too. So it's really hard, this objective, this idea of universal design, which should work for everyone. It's a very utopic one, but you have to go there. You have to try to reach that place. But in the way, you will fail many times, So you need to be prepared for failing. Allow yourself to fail and allow yourself to ask to these people, to your objective public, whatever I'm doing wrong, can you tell me? I'm sorry, can I say that? Can I do that? It's very good to ask. Because, first of all, because you are doing things well, you won't fail that much if you ask. But also because they will be involved, and that's something that they will appreciate a lot. But it's important to know that, yeah, okay, we'll fail at some point. And that's okay. We're trying to grow. We're trying to do it better. But if you try to be perfect at the beginning, you will stop yourself. You won't be able to go further because you will be too scary to do something wrong, and that will make you do nothing. So, no, let's fail. And I want to tell you a bit about the potential of diversity that I found, not only me, but many people. As I told you, the idea of being creative to do this is very attractive, because whenever you are creative, you are enjoying what you're doing. I think most of us. So usually when you start to tell something of science and you have your own talk prepared, if you want to tell the same to someone who is blind or deaf, you may have to start from scratch. You know, not try to adapt whatever you have, but think about everything again. Here in this picture, you can see a blind girl, and there is a lamp, which was one of these old light bulbs, very hot. And I used that to explain light to a blind girl. How? Because I was thinking about that. Okay, what's light for me? I cannot start explaining, okay, it's a wave, you know, magnetics and electric fields. No, that's not the way. Light, for a blind person, I think that's the good answer. It's information, but that comes from far away. You know, normally their words are touchable. Whatever they can understand from a space, it can be understood by the touch, or maybe by the sound. Here, for example, the echo can tell you how big or how small is this room. You know? So whatever they know about a new place, for example, will have to go through their hands or maybe their ears. But for a sight person, they can see information from very far away. We can see there is a tree over there, which looks very small. So I know trees are big, so probably that tree is far. All that information, you have it in your brain already, so you don't think about that, and you already understand there is a tree far away. You know? But they cannot touch the tree. And actually, if they touch the tree, they won't touch it small. They will touch the whole tree. So the information comes in a different way. So I realized that light can be felt if it's hot, you know, if it's, I don't know, infrared, something that makes your skin getting hot. So I used that light to let her understand that she can follow, actually I was moving the lamp this way, she can follow the heat without touching the lamp, you know, because she senses. And we were talking about the ALMA antenna. So I told her that ALMA antenna were like her hand. They can actually find, you know, heat or something like heat in the sky and know where the thing is and actually have an image from that thing without touching it, you know? So that was my interpretation of light. Different of whatever we normally told about light, but I think it was more understandable or related with her work, with her way to see things. And I think it's work. I think it has been working because they have the experience. Before that, I asked them if whenever they go out to on a sunny day, if they know where the sun is. And all of them say, yes, I know where the sun is when it's a sunny day, because they feel the direction of the heat. So you can make that comparison. Okay, this antenna will know where the source of the radiation is because they are sensible to that, just like your hand is sensible to the sun or the lamp. And that was a work of creation, you know, like to change my mind and to try to think about the same thing in another way completely different. And that's fun. I don't know for you, but for me, it's fun. Well, that was actually the first talk we gave in 2016. It was a girl from the Helen Keller School at Bibliociegos, the library for the blind people. So, diversity is a very good thing to have in science. There is a couple of papers I know comparing a number of citations with very diversity teams, you know, with gender and age versus, how do you say, teams where all the same kind of person. And the diversity has a lot of more citations than. And that only means that you have more creativity around. You know, people seeing things in a different way, with other perspective, with other solutions. And then that means they are more effective in bringing those solutions. So one of the examples are sonifications. You know, data sonifications. This is a result of Wanda Diaz-Merced in his PhD thesis. Multimodal stimulus in synchrony with the sounds help space scientists identify events masked by noise in 2D data. That means if you hear your data with the same kind of idea that you transform, I don't know, for example, a light curve, you transform the height of the curve in the pitch, and then you hear, you know, it's going up and then down. If you do that and you see the data and you hear the data at the same time, you will find more information that you didn't see because of the noise, but you can actually recognize that something changed in the middle. And that's very good news for astronomers at least, because we are building, you know, bigger and bigger telescopes to have more and more data, and we have more information in the same data, you know? So that's something that she presents not as an advantage for blind persons, which can be a little group if you want to think about that statistically, but for everyone. Everyone can be really helped by hearing the data, and she proved that in her thesis. So now there's a lot of sonification tools. For example, there is one from NASA, X-Sonify, Sono Uno from Argentina, Sonification Sandbox, Georgia Institute of Technology, Sonifier, SoniPy, Astronify, and Afterglow Access. I put that in the end. I work a bit with them. This was a project in the States for high school level students. And they make this software to analyze images. And one of the features is that they can sonify the images. So there's an example. Sounds beautiful. So what's happening here is that line, every time that line touches on a star or source of light, it makes a sound, and the sound is different if it's there or there. I think it's like a piano key. You know, I think piano has high pitch here and low pitch, or the other way around. High, low. Okay. So it's like a tick, 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 tick. That kind of sound. So you can train yourself to be able to know, for example, that here most of the stars in the middle, because most of the sounds are from a pitch in the middle of the high and the low. And also because of the time. At the beginning there were little stars, at the middle were a lot of stars, and then little star again, and then you can start to understand this image. Maybe not with so many details, or maybe you will think not with so many details as with the eye, But the thing is, when you analyze astronomical images, you don't really use your eye too much. You need a computer to count how many stars are here, or to measure how bright they are, or to whatever. You don't do it with your eye anymore. You do it with a computer. So blind people can do exactly the same. And if they need to know where the center of this is because they are taking the picture or whatever, they will know it with this kind of sonification. You know? And also, this happens, something very funny happens to me. If you go, if you zoom into a place here and you count, I don't know, 5 stars, sometimes you will hear like 6 or 7 stars. And those are, you're not seeing them, but you can hear them, you know, and then you realize that it's true. It's true that your ear can be more sensitive even, or at least can recognize this sound as something different than the noise. So it's very useful. Do you want to hear again? Yes. Okay. Nice. And there is a system there, over there, to choose a place to zoom in. You know, like to say, okay, I want to zoom in the middle, and it makes the image larger there. Or you can zoom here, and go the image bigger there. You know, so yeah, this software was work with blind people also, with blind students, because they collaborate with many teachers around the States, and they were working with blind students, so they work a lot on this kind of thing. It's not perfect in the sense that there is some things that you cannot do only by hearing, or, you know, you need to see in some part of the software, but you can analyze astronomical images very easily. So, many times I have seen this, when we have this experience with people with disability and without disability together, they start to change their mind about what people with disability can do, which is very important. I think it's very, how can I say, this idea moves me a lot, you know? Like, we can actually change the status of people with disability by doing this kind of things. For example, here in this example that I'm showing you, there's a lot of pictures there. This is the first solar eclipse that I told you about that we were doing. We have this here. The light zone, the light zone that I told you about. One of the students were proving it with this, you know, to make the shadow or not, and make the people to hear the difference. There were some other students of the same club showing people some tactile models. You know, here were a lot of people, actually, like 300, 300, well, 300 people there, and there were blind kids showing the people those models, you know, teach them about the eclipse in the inclusive way. So the kids themselves were very impressed by that, you know. Actually, I remember when we were teaching them how to use those in order to prepare them, they didn't believe that they will be going to a university and teach to the university people something new. So I told them, okay, try it here, try it in the school. So they went out, they go to the guard or somewhere, or another teacher, and they told them about the size of the sun and the moon and the earth, and these people didn't know about that. So they were very impressed. And after this activity, they told me, they write down, because I gave them a survey. They told me that they feel very powerful because they were telling people something that they didn't know. So that's just beautiful. And the people who were there that day, they were also happy about that. They were impressed by sharing with blind people. It was funny because that light sound at the beginning, when the sound is open, is very noisy. Like the sound is very high pitched, so it's uncomfortable. But at the beginning, I tell everyone, by microphone, okay, we'll be hearing this thing the whole day. We are doing this because blind person can experience the eclipse that way. So I won't put it down. We'll have it this all day. Okay, so nobody actually complains. Some people say at the survey say, okay, the noise was a little bit noisy, but it was okay. Like they understood and everything was fine. But yeah, it was a very good experience. And we didn't have totality in Santiago, where the university is, but it was 92%, so it was a lot. So if you want to start to become inclusive, I will give you these advices. First, learn what it is about. I will say choose a disability to start and learn what it's about. The communities of people with disabilities are usually open to help. If you approach them in the right way, if you approach them in a humble way, like, okay, I want to learn from you, I want to share this with you, we've been learning both ways, they will be very kind and they will be open to help, But, well, and because of that, I already know, but this is a motto that they have. Nothing about us without us is something very important. If you are going to create an experience for blind people, you have to have blind people working in that experience. Otherwise, it's just, I don't know if here in Italy happened that, but sometimes in Chile you see these big enterprises coming to give, I don't know, something to child, and then take a picture, and then go away, and then that's it. Okay, they had that experience. So at the beginning, they cannot trust you right away because they already someone disappoint them. But if you work on their trust, if you really show them that you are there and you're learning and giving them something, then it will be easier to get an approach. But it's like making a friendship. It's not like just, okay, I'm here to give you something, bye. You have to make friends with them in order to be able to do things in a right way. I will try to make it simple in the sense that this idea of you will fail at the beginning. Okay, fail is something simple. And then you can get complicated once you already know how to do in the middle. But for me, that's something very motivating for outreach, at least, and everything I research also, because it makes you think in a different way about how to explain things. For example, images alone don't tell the whole picture. And in astronomy, we have this bad habit of just showing the beautiful galaxy and then say nothing about that. Okay, this is a galaxy, wow. And nobody tells you that it's a huge thing, this is Andromeda. It should be, I don't know, 200,000 light years wide, which is a lot. And there is billions and billions of stars, and there's a lot of space between those stars. So the space is very cold, but the stars are hot. There is some clouds in between. There is a black hole in the middle. There is so many things that you never say about the galaxies because you just show the picture. And people say, okay, nice, but they don't get to know those things. You as a scientist have it in mind, but you're not saying it. So when you try to explain that to a blind person, you say it. You realize that you didn't say that before, and you start to say it, and it's a lot more interesting than only the picture. So it's a very, very good exercise to do, and it's an opportunity, to rethink the way you tell things. And something very important that I already mentioned is collaboration. You really cannot do this by yourself. You have to meet other people who are better than you, designing or teaching or, I don't know, doing whatever you need. And that's how we made this group. This is a picture of before pandemics, actually. A meeting that we have in Museo Interactivo Mirador. It's a science museum where you can touch things and move things. I love it. And we meet there with a lot of people coming from astronomy, from teaching, from, I don't remember if I think that time weren't no one with disability, but later they start to go into the group. And not only us, of course, are a group, but also the IAU, the International Astronomical Union, as a working group on astronomy for equity and inclusion. And they have a lot of resources, publications, good practice, many things. 2 weeks ago, I went to a workshop in Uruguay about inclusive astronomy. And it was very interesting. I saw a lot of different projects. There is a lot of things happening here in Italy also. There is a lot of different projects happening in that kind of area. So if you look for it, you will find. And well, I leave you with my contact, ERIKA LABBÉ. I manage the social media also, so you can reach me by direct message if you want. And we are in YouTube, in Instagram, in Twitter, in Facebook also, and in TikTok if you want. I'm still not dancing in TikTok, but I'm making some videos. And Astro Inclusiva also have a social media if you want to look for it. Here we try to share different projects, not only ours, but others too. So you can know more, but also manage that social media. And well, thank you. Do you have any question?
Yeah. Do you have any question? Thank you, Erika, for this very inspiring talk.
Yes, I have a question. Yes, first of all, thank you so much. And I don't think I need to explain my thank you. But my question was, do you have a positive feedback on the way you show science to people without disabilities? I'm thinking that because you said start from scratch, because our problem, I think, is not starting from scratch when you cooperate with other people that are not of our group of scientists. Mm-hmm. So did you have any positive feedback also on that side?
Yeah, of course. Well, the very first activity that we did it many times with people with, the arts covered. And those people were very impressed because they were able to do many things to learn. What do I mean? They not only were hearing us and seeing something, but they also were touching something. They were moving a nebula, for example. It was a very soft thing that we passed. And they can touch it, they can press it like gravity, They can go from a round nebula to a disk. So it was very clear how this round nebula becomes a disk with a star in the middle and the planets doing, and everything was, rotating the same direction, or the planets were in the same plane. Everything was very clear because they were touching it, they were moving it, they were doing the work. And that's, you don't have it by a book or by a video either. So that's a very good, the idea of learning with other senses than the vision is very powerful for everyone. And that makes them also questioning more detail about what's happening. Like they understood deeper, better. They took more time also. You had to know that if you give a talk in 30 minutes, with tactile models will take like 3 times that, because every person will be touching it. So I usually make 2 or 3 set of models to go faster. But that interaction, like in the moment that people is touching and moving in, have the scientists in front, is very powerful because they can have questions and they can ask immediately, and they can have another question. So the interaction is very effective, much more than watching a picture. So what happened to me is, for me, it's hard to come back. It's hard to give a talk with only pictures. That's why I put movement and colors, because I need something else than a PowerPoint. So, and that happens to everyone who has wearing that kind of thing. Like, okay, I want to explain something, but not only by telling and showing, but also by making people to move or to do something, to participate somehow in the talk. And that's very, people appreciate that. And well, when we talk about the solar system, for example, everyone is surprised. Even astronomers didn't know how different the sizes are, because, okay, they have maybe the numbers in their head, maybe they have a picture well done, but it's not the same that touching. So yeah, I think that's what I propose actually. This is not only useful for this maybe little group of people with disability, it's useful for everyone. There is a couple of cases in a university that I did my bachelor in Valparaiso, where they have 2 or 3 blind students going through physics courses. So they develop a way, to teach them physics the same way, with tactile models, with some other tools. But they did that only for those students. I will like if they did that to all the students, That would be great. Of course, it's more time, but maybe, since you learn deeper, maybe it's good. It's worth, it's worth to, okay, it's longer, but it's better than only to have the typical class.
Thanks a lot, really interesting. I was wondering if there are activities related for people with autism, because in Italy, I know many efforts on the blind people community from astronomical and physics researcher, but I was discussing, for example, with an educator, and she told me that people with autism can share the same tactile good feeling with respect to words, because with explaining them by touching can be a very effective way. So I was wondering if there are, I don't know, efforts in this sense. Thanks.
Yeah, I haven't done much personally, just give a talk to a group of kids. It was on pandemic, so it was by Zoom, but it was also like showing them these models, trying to use this by the screen. But I know some other effort from people in this group that I told you, other institution in Chile, where they have actually working with them, using these tactile models, as you said, because it's very concrete, and that's very helpful. And has been really useful. I don't remember details right now because it was a long time ago. I think it was before pandemic. But yeah, they have done this work of using this kind of material with people with autism. And has been working good, I think so. So yeah, it's a good idea.
The number of kids, at least, is very large in Italy, with kids of autism. Maybe it's even a bigger community than the blind one. I don't know.
I think so. At least in Chile, it seems to be that way too. Well, there is one detail. Some people with autism didn't like to be touched. So in those cases, of course, you won't give them, because because when you work with blind people are used to be guided. You know, if you tell them you are going to guide them, you can touch their hands, you can put their hands in a place, you can be more touchy with them because they are used to that. Is the way they interact. But with those people, those kids, of course, you won't be able. You have to be informed. You have to talk with their teachers. Yes, it's not like a solution for all of them, but it could be very useful in many cases. So yeah, I will use it. And I know they have been used, but not by me.
I wanted to thank you again for your talk, very inspiring. And when you were talking about oranges, I was wondering, and talking about different senses, have you ever used the sense of smell to convey some kind of information? I was wondering, like, I don't know, the different compositions of planets or something like that. Have you ever used it?
Not me. I have heard of them in Colombia, for example. I remember one exhibition with smells, and I think they are good only if you are able to do a direct connection with the subject. You know, if you have to explain too much, it can be messy. For example, I remember in this exhibition, they choose to put smells in colors. So they choose, for example, yellow was vanilla smell. Red was strawberry smell, which for people who is sight is very like, yeah, okay, yeah, those are the colors. But for someone who has never seen, first of all, colors are not that important, which is a new thing that not everyone knows. And second, I don't know, I think I will prefer to do something more recognizable. For example, I prefer to put sounds with colors, because there is a direct, you know, with a wavelength, there is a direct connection between the high-pitched sound and blue, for example, and the low-pitched sound and red. You can tell about waves and say, okay, this is going to be that, this is going to be this, and then you learn something else. You're learning that there is actually, I don't know, the blue is the more energetic because you hear the sound more energetic, and the red is low energy because you hear something, you know. I like that opportunity to learn something very intuitively from an experience. But if you have to explain too much, which is not bad, it's just an option. If you have to codify the information, then you have to be very careful doing it in the right way. Like they make sense of that codification. So smells, up to now, I haven't found something that I feel is very interesting. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's dangerous if you think about, I don't know, methanol. Methanol? It's smelly. I don't want to smell something with methanol. But it could be interesting, you know. Sulfur, yeah, okay. I think it's interesting if you can make the idea very clear. That's why also, whenever you make an experience, I will prefer to say little things about, not too much information in the same model, in the same experience, because it's very confusing for anyone. But if you can make a direct idea from whatever you're touching or smelling or hearing, and whatever you have to learn, that's very good. So yeah, if you have to think about smell only to complement a model, maybe not. But if it's really the thing that you are trying to teach has to do with the smells, I will do that, of course. Well, I like the idea of, for example, if it's a good smell, if it's something that you can eat, it's very nice, to learn something and then eat it. I think it's wonderful. Yeah, you must know when you're learning anything, but especially science, to have an emotional connection with the experience is very important. It's the reason why some people studied science, because this first emotional connection. So if you can make it through those kind of ideas, I think it will be good.
Thank you again for this wonderful talk. My question is, have you ever worked with classrooms where children with disabilities are integrated in the same classroom with children with different disabilities or no disabilities? Because this is the case usually here in Italy. We don't have special education schools. We have children with disabilities in the same classroom with others. And so, have you?
Yeah, actually, a couple of months ago, I was going to in the north of Chile, San Pedro da Gama, close to Alma Observatory. There, I went to a small town called Toconao to work with a school, because in that school there is a blind girl. So Alma was working with this girl from years already. They gave her the opportunity to have a special teacher for her in the room. And she was very enthusiastic about astronomy, so it has been a very good experience. And I had the chance to meet her a couple of months ago and have an activity with the whole group. So what I noticed is, first of all, people was caring for her. They were very helpful, taking her from here to there to that. Nobody was. I wasn't too long there, but nobody seems to be uncomfortable for having, a different person in the group. Like, they were very used to her, and it was a good relationship. The thing was, what their teacher told me, that because of that, she didn't do many things by herself. The people were always helping her, which is not good, not good for her development. So I think it was a good experience to make the same activity for all of them, not only for her. And I like that she was confident enough when we came back later for a scientist fair that Alma also did in San Pedro da Gama. She came to this fair and asked me to be one of the people who explained one of the models to the person. So she was explaining to the people who came. So we had to figure it out how to do it, because people, usually when someone came to a stand, you see the person coming, so you start to talk. In this case, people were coming and she didn't see them. So we had to do something to, okay, here is Chiara, she will tell you about this, and she started to tell. So we had to think about those things that for herself, maybe it's not already solved. Maybe we should think in a way, if she's only herself in the stand, to know that someone is coming and to talk with them. But the thing that I was happy, it was that she was confident enough to ask me. I didn't ask her, actually. She asked me to show the model to the people who was coming. So yeah, I think it was a good experience, and maybe she has a good experience in the sense of be very good integrate maybe she's too cared, you know, to protect her, and that's not always good because she needs to be more independent. But she was confident, and I like that. I don't know. Yeah, if you are working with groups with people with or without disability, I think you should try to teach them all together to make this idea of the inclusion actually not something different for everyone. That's very important.
Hi, thanks for the talk, for the presentation. And you show a lot of examples of the phenomenological description of the different phenomena of the physics, okay? There is difficulties in linking the phenomenological part to the mathematical part in case, or if you have any experience in connecting the two parts, and if maybe also the programming can be a tool to also be used for the blind people or for people with disabilities. So two different aspects, you know, because one part is the experience, the understanding the phenomena, one part is the description, the modeling, the prediction, which is also a physics part, you know. So I'd like to know just if you have any experience also in connecting the two parts. Okay.
I think I will. Okay.
So maybe for bigger people,
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, well, it is a challenge to. I have heard from blind people who were interested in mathematics when they were young, having this difficulty to reach the subject because, of course, the plots, the figures, So, but these are grown-up people, and I like to think that now there's more tools to teach a blind person about mathematics, for example. I haven't done myself. I think this experience that I told you about the University, Santa Maria, where I did my bachelor, is an example that, because the kids, I met them, the young people, I met them, and they were happy about that. They were happy about learning physics. But yeah, I think it is one of the challenges that I will like people to take, because we need a lot of creativity, a lot of, maybe it's not that difficult in the sense that if you think about physics, at least whenever I was learning something about physics, I did learn because I could imagine the thing happening, the things falling. And all the movements are part of our movement. I mean, you may experience some of them, For example, but it can be a bit dangerous, but if you put a blind person in one of these seats that goes around and make them open their arms and close their arms, they will feel that physics that you're trying to teach them. And probably they will understand it better than only by watching the video. Anyone, not only a blind person. So maybe it's an opportunity to think about using movements or something else than only the image or the graph or the book or the very boring design, which is the way I learn, of course, most about this. But the abstraction of the mathematics, I don't know, I'm not sure. Sometimes I believe that maybe it's not that hard because, again, people with disabilities think in a different way. So maybe our way to teach, which is very visual, is just one way, and it's not the best one. It's the way we are used to, the way we repeat from our teachers to our students. But maybe it's not really the best way, and certainly wasn't the way the scientists discovered that. They were playing with something and found the defect. So yeah, I don't have a good answer to that. I didn't do this experience with in the university. But I know about people who is learning astronomy being blind already, so I think it's happening. You know, there is a... Yeah, I mean, as I told you before, when you actually do research, you use the computer, and you don't need to tell the computer there is 100 stars there. The computer counts them by itself. You have to check, of course, if it's counting good or not. You know, but usually you don't do that work by hand because it's too much, and we have technology. So in the same sense, I think it is possible, but we have to figure it out how to explain very, very good what is actually happening. I would like to work on that.
I think one of the hardest things when you try to change the way you teach things or you communicate things is to actually change your way of thinking, right? Because we learn them a certain way and it's immediate to teach them the same way. Do you have like any practical tips on how to avoid to do it over? Because maybe sometimes you have a good idea, but then in the end, when you're done with it, you find out that you still use the same technique, the same way you always used.
Yeah, I mean, my better advice on that will be telling that to someone and test. You know, not only blind person or but anyone. Because people who are not into science could be, I don't know, your sister, your son, your mother, someone. We have the same problems to understand what you're saying that a blind person, probably. You know? If they see a plot, they won't understand all the plot because they are not trained at that. You need to find a very simple and nice way to say whatever you want to say to those persons. So it's a good way to try. You know, whenever you forgot about explaining one part of it, the people will notice because they will put their face like, what? Or they will ask you something that then you will realize, okay, I didn't explain this first. So that's a good thing. You have to really interact a lot. So in this concept of the science center of the user. I don't know if I'm saying good. I did it. But when you design something and you are centering the people who will use this, you are always asking, not only at the end. But at the beginning, you have an idea, and then you ask, and they say something. And then you have a new idea, and then ask again, and then I think that's the best way to, especially this kind of things.
Are there other questions? If not, let's thank ERIKA again.
Thank you.
And I take the occasion to remember that on Monday and Tuesday we will have some workshops when we will use some of those techniques and try them by hands.
Yes. Can we have a selfie?
Yeah, for sure.
You turn on
and
the light.
Thank you to all of you to be here.
Okay, I will try to fit them all here. No. Yeah. No sé. Está difícil. ¿Ah?